Alright guys, welcome back to Formula 1 news, and plenty of talk and rumours going on right now as to the driver lineup for 2023. If Daniel Ricciardo is not in that McLaren seat next year, as seems increasingly likely, who exactly might well take his place? McLaren might be looking at Sebastian Vettel, currently frustrated with Aston Martin's pace, as taking Ricciardo's seat. Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy, subscribe if you're new as always. Plenty to discuss today. First of all, other changes going on with regard to Michael Masi, of course, after getting kicked out of the race director role at the end of last season and effectively taking some sort of other role within the FIA, which was never really discussed exactly what that would be. Apparently Michael Masi has now decided to leave the FIA and relocate to Australia to be closer to his family and to take on new challenges. So yes, Masi is gone. He's not returning as a race director. There was even some talk actually about kind of bringing him back or having like a third rotating race director, which, you know, just doesn't seem like a good idea at all, because already there's a lot of frustration from the drivers about the inconsistencies from weekend to weekends, because they have Freitas and Wittich one weekend and then they have the other guy the other weekend, right? And the kind of race direction is not exactly consistent. That's been frustrating many people, and it wasn't consistent last year with just Masi, and of course it's not so easy when you've got two directors as well. But yeah, Masi is officially gone from the FIA and unlikely to return anytime soon. They say he wants to take on new challenges and the like. Let's talk driver lineups then. So still the number one choice for Oscar Piastri, of course the Formula 2 world champion from last season, currently on the bench effectively at Alpine, wants to probably go to Williams. He of course wants a Formula 1 seat somewhere. The Williams seat of Nicholas Latifi is probably going to be gone, and Piastri might well take that seat. Logan Sargent has also been another name in the conversations, but it seems almost certain that Piastri will get a seat somewhere. It also could be at McLaren though, because more than likely Alpine want to retain their current driver lineup. Ocon's doing a good job. Alonso's been phenomenal, to be honest, despite his lack of points due to unfortunate circumstances that have befallen him. But it'd be a surprise, right, if Alonso and Ocon weren't the driver lineup next year at, of course, Alpine. So Piastri is probably going to go elsewhere. Williams and McLaren seem to be possibly available seats right now. Now, Matt does reckon here that Ricciardo's not going to go anywhere, right? He says that he's going to see out his contract. He'll drive in 2023. Beyond that, who knows what's going to happen, right? So it does seem like, at least from the talk within McLaren, that at least presently, they don't plan to get rid of him. They don't plan to move him off to Formula E or IndyCar or whatever. They plan to effectively keep him in the team if he wants to keep racing. But the thing is, it does seem like the frustrations are mounting for Daniel Ricciardo. He's not performing at the level that he knows he can, and also these cars don't seem to suit him particularly well. He's missing a good couple of tenths to Lando Norris, and of course to the competitors around him, especially in qualifying, has been pretty much destroyed by Norris so far this year on most occasions, right? And it does feel like his kind of usual passionate self that we see in interviews and the like has kind of gone away in a way. Like, it seems like he's more reserved and maybe resigns to his fate at times. Like, he'll go out in Q1 in qualifying and he'll be on the radio telling them he got P16, and he'll be like, you know, I don't know, I guess I'll go back to the garage. It doesn't seem like maybe the fire's there anymore. It's a bit of an interesting dynamic, but maybe he feels like his kind of time in Formula 1 is coming to an end. Obviously, that's all speculation, and he might well make his mind up to continue racing next year anyway for McLaren, given he has a contract until the end of next season. But if he does decide to step away, do something else or whatever, is getting frustrated with the situation, all the media speculation as a result of it, then McLaren, of course, will need someone else to take his seat. Apparently, if Ricciardo does continue with McLaren, Piastri is probably going to go to Williams, but if he doesn't, then all of a sudden that McLaren seat might be open to an Oscar Piastri, whose manager is Mark Webber, well acquainted with Andreas Seidel, the team principal at McLaren, so potentially there's a relationship going on there. But other names have been mentioned in the ballpark as well. These are two of them. Rather incredible, actually, both of these names to be considered for a potential McLaren seat, as supposedly they are exploring options for 2023, just in case Ricciardo is gone if he decides to leave the team. Albon and Vettel have been named as potential candidates. So the other Williams seat in Albon, right? And if Albon was to go to, of course, McLaren, then it would seem almost certain that Piastri would be the one to go to Williams in that case, given that's already rather likely as is. The other name is Sebastian Vettel, right? So he's been talking an awful lot lately about his frustrations with the Aston Martin, and even Mike Crack from Aston Martin has said that they're going to have to make significant progress over, I mean, even last race, which they really didn't, and the coming races, to prove to Vettel that he should stay, right? So it's either at the end of this year Vettel retires or he joins another team, right? I think it's almost impossible that Vettel will be racing for Aston Martin next season. It's of course possible, right? But it seems unlikely based on their present trajectory and Vettel's aspirations in the sport. But if he does get another seat elsewhere, potentially McLaren, that could be rather interesting indeed. This was kind of the excerpt here from the BBC article. McLaren is said to be exploring options for 2023 in case Ricciardo decides he does not want to continue in Formula 1. One possibility is Alex Albon, who is impressed on his return to Williams after a year out as Red Bull reserve in 21, and then four-time world champion Sebastian Vettel has also been mentioned in connection to the team. So really that would be quite something, right? If Vettel was to join McLaren, I think people would love to see that, just because it gives Vettel a more competitive car. It means that we get more Vettel versus Alonso battles, because of course right now it does seem to be the top three teams, Red Bull, Ferrari and Mercedes, right? And then after that it's pretty much Alpine have the fourth fastest car right now, then McLaren, even though I'm pretty sure they're currently tied in constructors standings. But I mean, yeah, that would be a great battle. I mean, imagine the championship battle this year with no Red Bull, Ferrari or Mercedes. Like, it would be honestly incredible, because all of those other teams seem to be capable of taking wins and taking points at any opportunity, if of course the top three teams weren't actually there. And Vettel has given his thoughts on this very recently, right? So I wonder if he's kind of eyeing up this potential move here to McLaren, because as he says, I want to fight not only for points but also for wins, otherwise the fun is gone. I will have to be clear about how realistic my goals are though. And of course, like we saw just last season in the McLaren, Daniel Ricciardo winning in Monza, right? So that is the thing that he might be looking at that McLaren team and saying, okay, if I'm in a car that's closer to the front, then possibly he can be in a position to actually do some damage. And I think all things considered, he's been driving rather well this season, as has Alonso, despite not really having the points to show for it, to be honest, based on the machinery that is under him. So it's an interesting question. What will Ricciardo decide to do? He's certainly been underwhelming this year. If his form continues as it currently is, being like a little bit off Lando, but even they said themselves, McLaren, that they need, effectively all they're asking of Ricciardo is to be as good as Norris. And if he can't do that, then they themselves might decide to move him on anyway, right? Or they might have said that he decided to retire, but they decided to push him out anyway. Like, who knows what they're going to decide to do. But if there are options there and Ricciardo still continues to underperform in the second half of the season, it's not out of the question that he's out of the team and someone else is coming through. Vettel seems unlikely, but you know, would be, of course, a pretty exciting possibility as well. Now, speaking of Vettel, I did want to mention this because I thought it was pretty funny. A classic Vettel-Alonso piece of drama. So, effectively, we heard that talk the other day that Vettel got fined 25,000 euros for storming out of the drivers' meeting. This apparently is what was going on within the drivers' meeting. So, race control was hearing what the drivers were saying with regard to inconsistent race direction, and then actually apparently doesn't give any feedback, and then just does what they think is right. So, apparently, Alonso was giving a monologue on why his penalty that he got in Canada was actually wrong, based on the rules or whatever. If you kind of missed that incident, it was at the end of the race when Alonso, I think he had some sort of DRS issue or something, and he wasn't able to really keep up with his teammate Ocon in front, and therefore he was weaving on the straight on the final lap down the back straight to prevent Bottas overtaking him. Eventually gets a penalty, and I think misses out on a couple of places as a result of that one. So pretty big deal. Alonso obviously still not happy with it, and you know, apparently he's talking about this all the time. Whenever he sees someone doing the same thing but not being penalised, he shows this case and explains it in epic breadth, and then tries to get confirmation from race control that he was wrongly penalised. And that went on for a relatively long time, and it all went in circles, and at some point Vettel just snapped and left because they didn't make any progress, right? So it's really funny to hear this from the internal source, I suppose, that Alonso was just going on and on to race direction about the fact that this penalty he got back in Canada was unfair, and he's seen other drivers do the same thing and not been penalised in more recent races, and Vettel had enough and just stormed out of there before eventually coming back in, but still getting slapped by a 25,000 euro fine. And there's been some jokes that it's possible that will continue going forwards, saying that if Sainz's overtake on Russell was off the track, and similar to last year when Alonso got overtaken by 3 cars the same way, I already know how the next driver's briefing will be. The Sainz case will be revisited, and then Seb will leave again. We'll see how that one goes. He also did mention right here, I thought was kind of interesting, he talks about his kind of hopes for the World Championship this year. He says that, like, Max Verstappen is the odds-on favourite. He's the kind of the sensible pick this season. He says, like, he thinks Max will win, but he says he also wants Charles Leclerc to win, right? Of course, like, everyone's a Ferrari fan. Sebastian Vettel certainly a Ferrari fan as well, and he says right here he hopes to go to the ends, and he says he hopes Charles will pick Max, but you know, rationally at this stage, as he describes, like, well, more than likely, probably Max will go on to win the championship anyway. And of course, speaking of this weekend's, thought it was kind of interesting actually just to see what Mick Schumacher's career might hold for him going forwards, because the first time Michael Schumacher got points back in the Austrian Grand Prix in 1997, he was P9 on the grid and P6 in the race. That was exactly the same thing as what happened in 2022 with Mick Schumacher, his son. So maybe a sign of things to come. But very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new as always. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you next time.